Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And today we're going to talk about how to protect your phone if you're arrested. Now, what actually got me thinking about this was an article I just read by Matthew Gull of Gizmodo. And essentially, the Detroit police just possibly discovered a new iPhone feature that is giving them a serious headache when these phones are in their custody. Now, essentially, what's happening to these phones, and we'll get to the steps that you can take to protect yourself, but here's the backdrop of this. The police in Detroit basically have iPhones, in this case, in their custody, and they're now rebooting without warning. Now, the reboot obviously makes it much harder for law enforcement to basically search these devices. Now, 404 Media broke this story based on documents that it acquired that appear to be written by the police in Detroit, Michigan. This includes a memo describing the problem and warning other law enforcement officials to watch out for this. And the document says, and I quote, "The purpose of this notice is to spread awareness of a situation involving iPhones, which is causing iPhone devices to reboot in a short amount of time. Observations are possibly within 24 hours when removed from a cellular network. If the iPhone was in the after first unlock or AFU state, the device returns to a before first unlock or BFU state after the reboot. This can be very detrimental to the acquisition of digital evidence from devices that are not supported in any state outside of AFU." Now, the lock state of an iPhone determines how easy it is for the police to use third-party tools like Celebrite to break into a phone and obviously extract data that they need. So when an iPhone boots after a loss of power, it's in BFU mode and therefore is harder to get into. So the police can still brute force their way into the phone, but it's much harder, and the data that they can extract obviously is limited. A BFU extraction contains minimal data compared to an AFU extraction, so obviously it's not ideal for evidence collection or the police. Now, an interesting part of this is that this isn't a remote reboot command, meaning the owner of the phone, or let's say an associate if the person has been arrested, isn't sending a command to the phone via, let's say, cloud or over wireless or some kind. These reboots are actually happening in phones that have been put into airplane mode, meaning they're not communicating with cellular or wireless networks. And one of them was actually inside a Faraday box. Now, a Faraday box blocks all outside signals, so even if somebody were attempting to get around, let's say, airplane mode, the phone simply can't get signals, meaning this is an internal command that the iPhone is essentially doing. And so the police are suspecting that the phones might have communicated with each other somehow, although the one in the Faraday box kind of negates that issue in the sense that it's not communicating with anything unless there were other phones in the Faraday box as well. The police have no idea why this is happening, but they suspect that it's a security feature of the new iOS, that's the operating system that runs the iPhone, version 18.0. And so with that, I wanted to give you some tips on how to protect basically your phone from the police as a privacy wonk. That's one of the things that I really advocate. And obviously, I'm talking to like the innocent bystanders and peaceful protesters here that, might accidentally get caught up in an arrest, those kinds of things. You've done nothing wrong. And so by virtue of that, if you're a criminal and you happen to be watching or listening to this, please shut this off now or go watch something else and we'll wait. Okay, so now that the criminals are not watching this or listening to this in any which way, shape, or form, and they're doing something else, here are some tips to actually protect yourself from law enforcement, and these apply to both iPhone and Android alike. So first things first, keep your phone up to date. Remember that we update or patch first and foremost to fix security issues. And if your phone is out of date, it's running older software, or you just keep skipping updates, these are exploits that essentially police or hackers could use to break into your phone. On top of it, fully encrypt your phone using a strong password, not a PIN. That makes it way harder to brute force your phone. So for example, my phone has a 15-character password on it that basically includes upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters as well, like question marks, exclamation points, that kind of thing. So if you're going to basically, on top of it though, if you're going to be in an area where there is a protest or let's say a high arrest rate, disable the biometrics and only use that complex password that you set up. So, because normally, like if I'm just, I don't know, going through an airport and you're thinking, Nick, you're crazy if I'm going to put a 15 character password, on my iPhone or my Android. The answer is the biometrics get me in instantly. If I'm going into an area where I suspect I'm in some way, shape, or form maybe caught up or swept up into something that maybe I'm not part of, I would disable biometrics to make it that much harder to get into the phone during that period. Now, obviously, and if there are no biometrics, then you cannot be forced, basically with the police or whoever putting the phone in front of your face to unlock it or forcing your finger on a biometric finger reader, and so they can't do it. You'd have to be compelled to unlock your phone typing in that password. On top of it, do not display alerts on your phone's locked home screen. Those alerts could give away valuable information. And the courts in the United States, I did a video slash podcast slash radio segment on this a few years ago. The courts have said that anything that essentially the police can see on the lock screen, meaning you get a text, from somebody, they can now basically use that as evidence to say, oh, you have a known associate that is also caught up in this or whatever this is. Nothing should be displayed on your lock screen except for the date and time. And if you can, if you're in one of these situations, obviously BFU it, reboot your phone and don't log in before you enter the area, because if your phone is seized and you have no biometrics and a strong password and it's in BFU mode, it's harder to get anything from your phone. And if you're using it, let's say, to record things and all of that, try to reboot it as fast as you can, before, let's say, being caught up in something. So I say all of that to say that obviously no criminals are watching this whatsoever. This obviously is for the peaceful protesters or people in possibly high arrest areas, to deal with. But it's important that you protect yourself. Privacy is sacrosanct. And remember, we have a right to privacy. We also have a right under the U.S. Constitution, basically, that they have to get a warrant for search and seizure. And make sure that you are doing that. Make sure that you are keeping your phone secure and all of that. And quite frankly, remember, you can also ask for an attorney. So that is your friendly advice of the day. And hopefully we're all safe out there. And hopefully none of us are getting arrested for reasons we shouldn't be arrested for. And if you're arrested because you're a criminal, don't do anything I just said. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, please, please attempt to stay private no matter what the situation. Take care.